So for my exhortation tonight, the passage I was given to talk about this evening is James 5:7-9. So I'm going to go and just start off reading that for us tonight. Be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the former waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it, until it receives the early and the late rains. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. So when I saw I was given this verse, I was like, well, what a better verse to do it for me, because I struggle with patience quite a lot. I don't like waiting. I'm pretty sure not a lot of us really like waiting, especially if no one really likes waiting. Like at the DMV, people's like, yes, a long line. I get to wait there at the DMV, figure out my registration and whatnot there. No one's super excited about waiting. People want stuff to get done now. I think I'm going to go back from a few different verses that kind of talk about patience and what does patience bring, because if we realize what patience brings, I think it's going to make it easier for us to wait and be patient with everything that we do. I want to bring up like in what Rod spoke about last week in Galatians 5:22, talking about the fruit of the Spirit. You can't have one without the other. All have to be working together. And if we flip over to Galatians 5:22 here, my notes are going to, there we go. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. So I like to piggyback off of what Rod was talking about. They all work together. And I like to focus on patience and joy, because those are two fruit of the Spirit there. And looking at examples in my life, talking about patience and how it applies to my life, there's a whole bunch of ways I'm very impatient with or need to be patient with more. But to look at an example, I think there's no better example to look to than Jesus Christ. If I'm going to flip over to Hebrews 12:1-2, I think that illustrates that perfectly here. If I can find it. Hebrews 12:1-2 says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. And did you catch that there? It says he endured the cross. He wasn't there thinking it was the time of his life it was nonchalantly not a big deal going on. He had to endure it. He had to stay up there and take that be the sacrifice for us. And it says, and this also relates going to joy and patience. It says, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. And I looked in that a little bit. When I read that verse, I kind of get confused talking about the joy set before him. Well, what does that mean? Well, he put joy, he put other people's needs, he put us in front of his own needs. He could have just not decided to die on the cross for us. He put his needs, he died for us, instead of just coming down like all the hecklers saying, why don't you just come down from that cross? He could have done that easily, without any question. But he decided to be patient. He decided to endure the cross for us. And you can kind of see how this kind of relates with patience in that it's not easy. Patience is never easy, and I can't think of anywhere in the Bible where it says patience is going to be something that's going to come easy to us, or any of the fruit of the Spirit for that matter. He knew Christ, like I said before, Christ didn't come down from the cross when he totally could have. He stayed up there and died for us because he knew there were greater things to come. And a very brings me to a very popular verse most of us should all know. It's going to be Jeremiah 29:11. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Now this puts things into perspective. When we're being patient, we have to look at the bigger picture here. If we're just looking at our own selfish ambitions, we're not going to know what the true meaning of just waiting around is going to be like. we're going to get annoyed with, say, other people in the line or what's have you there. But if we look at the bigger picture and know there are greater things ahead of us, I think it's going to be easier for us to be patient. If we go back, whether it be, many people can be waiting for a whole bunch of things. You can be waiting on a new job. You can be waiting on a car to get fixed up, buying a house. You can be waiting on a relationship. You can be waiting on some of your friends to be saved. You talk to them about Christ. And that takes patience, because none of that stuff's going to happen just right away. There's nothing easy about it, but when we remember that there's a greater purpose ahead, then it'll make us easier to be patient. So in all, I'm just going to reread the first passage again. Be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the former waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until it receives the early and late rains. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. So whatever you do when you're maybe waiting in line at the DMV, or when you're just waiting on talking to other people about Christ, or whatever it is that you have to wait for that you don't like waiting for, I see that the Bible clearly says it is worth it, so be patient, because it's going to be worth it and turn out good for you in the long run.